This channel's main focus is on my activism. As you'll see, there are many topics that I choose to expose and or raise awareness about. One of those topics is psychopathy. I am a stalking victim, so I've experienced being hunted and preyed upon by psychopaths. I was also involved in research focused on extreme psychopaths. My experience led to the discovery of the Psychopath kid. This is not the stereotypical troubled child or the textbook psychopathic kid. The psychopath kid falls in between these two types. The psychopath kid is more dangerous than the stereotypical troubled child and as dangerous as the textbook psychopath who hasn't been caught. This video is about what the psychopath kid is capable of doing to a normal child. Don't know if the troubled kids I mentioned were real psychopath kids because psychopath kids were unknown to me at that time. However, they serve as illustrations of what the psychopath kid can do to normal kids. The book Eyes Wide Open, My Experience with the Psychopath Next Door by RX talks about PNDs or the psychopath next door. These are the psychopaths who aren't in jail, aren't killing people, but are still deliberately hurting others as they go about their daily lives. This is not a Me Too video. This is really about protecting your child's innocence, letting them know what to do if they find themselves in adult situations, and teaching them how to protect themselves. One talk with my mom, along with elementary school officials, classroom visits addressing molestation and sexual abuse in an age-appropriate way, and a book, Protected or Prevented Me from Getting Raped. Sexual predators, whether it is another child or adult, prey upon a child's innocence. My mom was really concerned about protecting my innocence and letting me enjoy being a child as much as possible. I was able to keep my innocence while knowing enough to protect against sexual predators of any age. I was still innocent, but I wasn't naive. In case you don't watch until the end, because this will be a long video, I want to share some resources with you right now. I remember having teachers and specialists come into our elementary classroom and telling us about sexual abuse in an age-appropriate way. They let us know that it was wrong for people to hurt children in those ways, showed us how to tell parents or other adults if someone attempted to do bad things to us, and suggested ways to get to safety or try to prevent the situation. I don't know if schools do that anymore these days, but they really should do it now more than ever. The book that helped me as a child is Squeakers by Stephen Cosgrove. The story is about a squirrel who has to deal with peer pressure and an adult bribing him to do inappropriate things. It stuck with me and really helped my childhood mind understand the situations and what to do if these types of things happen to me. If you are not into religion, then you can ignore what I'm about to say because it is possible to work through these incidents without religion. I mention it because it really helped me stay safer. My mom forced me to go to church every Sunday, and I paid attention and took it seriously. It wouldn't be right to leave out how that helped me deal with these situations. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want non-religious people to feel left out, but I wanted to give credit to the church. I'm no longer religious, but I am spiritual. The church that I went to definitely wasn't perfect, but it did a decent job showing me the right path. There was no sexual abuse in that church, so that helped because I know some churches have those issues. I can't speak for the other kids who attended that church, but I had a strict family, so that reinforced the good things that were being taught in that church, and any less than churchly things were dealt with by family, friends, or other people who wanted to help protect children. If you went to a church regularly as a child, you know about the less than churchly things that happen at church. I'm going to tell you about some experiences that I never told my mom about. I didn't tell her because I didn't want her to worry about me. I saw that she had enough problems and didn't want to add to that. Believe it or not, your child understands more than you think and wants to protect you as much as their little selves can. They will keep things from you if they think it will hurt you to hear how bad it hurt them. They know you care and don't want to get you in trouble. I'm telling these things so parents can look for signs of a troubled child and help the child to tell you what happened so she or he can get help. It's so sad that little kids have to carry these heavy burdens through their lives, and it really affects their development. Their worldview could become distorted, leading to issues in adult years because they didn't get help addressing these incidents if it occurs to them. I've worked through these experiences and can no longer be hurt by them, and I am no longer hurt by them, and they can't be used to hurt me. As you will see, the resources I told you about helped a lot to prevent any big scars from developing, and I was able to get out of the situations with no or few scratches. If I did get hurt a little bit, the resources were able to help my child's mind work through the issues even without adult help. It starts with an incident that my mom knew about. In elementary school, I caught my mom having sex with her boyfriend. I watched quietly without knowing what they were doing. Then I went back to sleep. She didn't know I saw her. One day I was left alone with a childhood friend and I told her to take off her clothes. I took mine off and she lay down and I laid on top of her. We were both around the same age. We just laid there and not moving because this is what I saw my mom do with her boyfriend. It still bothers me to think about it. My mom's boyfriend walked in on us, but stopped at the door and watched for a few minutes. He didn't enter the room, but went and got my mom. When my mom saw, she was horrified and tried to walk in, but he stopped her. He thought it was funny. She pulled away from him and walked in. I watched all this happen and didn't move because I obviously didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I might have been in first grade. She pulled me off my friend, scolded me, and helped us put on our clothes. She made sure my friend was okay and sent her to her parents. She sat me down right then and there and asked me where I learned to do that. I told her and she was sad. She explained to me that kids should never do that and that it was bad. She told me to never do that again with any of my friends or anybody. She disciplined me, but she explained it enough for me to understand that what I did was wrong and to know that kids shouldn't do sexual things like that. Her psychopath boyfriend told her that she was overreacting for scolding me and explaining that children should not behave sexually. They got into a big fight over it because she let him know that he was a perv for thinking it was a joke. In the book Eyes Wide Open, my experience with the psychopath next door, there's a part that said, Daddy Mean Girl will behave inappropriately in front of his kids. He will make sexual comments, fight for no reason, curse in front of elementary school kids, and do other inappropriate things. His excuse is that they're only kids. They don't really know what he is saying or talking about. However, that is exactly why he shouldn't do or say those things in front of kids. Young kids don't know better, and they will repeat those words or do those things thinking it's okay because their Daddy Mean Girl said or did those things. Daddy Mean Girl doesn't care if his victim is a girl or if his daughter is watching. He will mistreat or try to intimidate a female. He won't even explain his hostile actions to his daughter and will leave her to think that is how males should treat females. You can imagine how he raises his sons. Let's just say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So that's the quote from the book. So the moral of my story is this is why kids shouldn't be exposed to adult jokes or situations. Some adults may say they're only kids. They don't understand or know what this is about. And that's exactly why they shouldn't be exposed. They don't understand and may do or say those adult things with other kids because they saw an adult do or say it. I didn't know any better. And my mom had to have that difficult discussion with a preschooler or first grader. I don't remember what grade I was in. It must have been hard because she still had to protect my innocence by not explaining too much while letting me know that kids shouldn't do those things. If you are one of those parents who watch what your kids are exposed to all the time, good for you. Keep protecting your child's innocence no matter what the more lax parents say. If your child slips up, please have that talk with them and make sure they understand what was wrong so they don't do that to other kids and they don't end up victimized either. I feel so bad about what happened and doing that to my friend, but I was only a kid and I really did not know better. I am glad my mom talked to her and me about not doing those things. The talk with my mom and her vigilance in protecting my innocence protected me from unwanted touching while playing with male family friends and their sons. My mom let me know at a very young age that kids shouldn't be touched in certain places and not to let anyone touch me inappropriately. She knew the dangers young kids faced and wanted me to be able to protect myself or tell her if someone did those things to me. As I said before, your child would try to protect you and not get you in trouble. The last thing a normal child wants to do is see their parents fight with their own friends because of him or her. So the following incidents are the ones my mom never knew about. I stayed with family friends after school sometimes when my mom came home late from work. Sometimes we took baths together before I went home. I was sent to take a bath with one of the boys because we were in elementary school and parents believe that kids are innocent. The little perv actually told me to have sex with him. He told me what we should do. This happened around first grade, and if I had no idea what was going on, I probably would have let him do what he wanted. However, my mom had prepared me, and I refused to let him come near me. I started crying, and his mom came in. She asked me what happened, took me out of the tub, and scolded him. She made sure I was okay and comforted me. I never took a bath there again. I remember feeling so bad about what happened and feeling like a dirty child, even though I stopped it from happening. I didn't want to tell my friends because I didn't want them to think I was a dirty child for what almost happened. It took some time to get over it. I can't really say my mom didn't know because I don't know if the other mom told my mom or not. I know I didn't tell her. Around the same time, I was playing with an adult-aged male family friend. I was running up to him, then running away while he tried to grab me. It was fun until he grabbed me and touched me down there. I didn't hesitate to realize that was wrong. He motioned for me to keep playing, and I thought it could have been an accident, and I ran to him again. He did it again, then motioned for me to keep playing, but I refused, and I ran to my mom. She knew I was upset and asked me what was wrong, but I wouldn't tell her. That was her friend, and I knew how fiercely protective my mom was. She would go after him, and I didn't want to see her fighting. I just laid in her arms and avoided him at all costs. He got the message and never tried anything like that for those elementary school years. You have to be careful with your child around family, friends, and acquaintances. You may think you know somebody, but you never know if they are pedophiles. Make sure your kid knows how to protect themselves in those situations. Let them know it is okay to tell you, and you will try not to get in trouble or a fight over it. Make sure they know that it is never okay for a family friend or even a relative to do sexual things to them. This all happened around first grade, so it is never too early to have those discussions with your child. Make sure it is age appropriate, meaning that you are not telling too much, but enough in a way that they understand. Children should never be in sexual situations, not even with other kids. It's not okay if another child exposes other children to sexual situations. It is not funny, even if they don't know what they are really doing. The child who does these things should be scolded and counseled because she or he should not be allowed to molest other kids. What happened with me laying on my friend was an accident because I did not know it was wrong, and it was right that I was scolded.
I don't know what the little boy knew. I don't know how that little boy knew about sex, but some parents would have found that situation funny. PND parents wouldn't find the situation with the little boy serious and say that I wouldn't even remember it. They think kids will get over it, but that situation made me feel like a dirty child. It took a while to get over it. And I still remember it, as you can see. The little boy's mother was horrified, and she told her husband what happened. He disciplined his son. Some PND parents will scold their kids, and some won't. Some daddy mean girls would even be proud that their son was trying to get laid in elementary school. I'm not saying the boy's parents were PNDs because I didn't know about PNDs or PND parents at that time. There's a part in Eyes Wide Open, my experience with the psychopath next door, that says, the scariest part of all this is that mommy and daddy mean girls' kids go to school with normal kids. If you didn't get chills at the thought of that, you should. Mommy and daddy mean girls support their kids' psychopathic behavior and see nothing wrong with it. They will privately encourage or congratulate their kids' bullying while scolding them for it in public. This could be why bullying remains an issue for school kids no matter what is done to stop it. I won't go into too much detail about this, but normal parents should be warned about the possibility of psychopakids with mommy and daddy mean girl parents or caregiver going to school with their normal kid. Don't force your child to be friendly with everybody. Children are mostly instincts until they develop reasoning skills. A normal human child could have a good sense of when someone is bad, so don't force your kids to like or be near someone. As the normal child gets older, teach them socially acceptable ways to stay away from bad people or other people they don't like. And that's a quote from the book. I can't say that the kids in the next few experiences were actual psychopath kids because I wasn't aware of psychopath kids at the time. I only know that their behavior would be similar to a psychopath kid's behavior. So, around first grade, I remember that a group of bad boys stayed too long in the classroom coat room. It was like closed off. It wasn't an open space. It was a closet, and then there was like a sliding door. You put your coat in and you leave. One of the little girls I hung out with sometimes kept going in and out of there. The boys told her to bring me in there, and I refused. It was really dark in that place. She somehow convinced me to go in there, and when the door was closed, the boys pulled down their pants and showed us their little private parts. She giggled and thought it was funny. I was horrified and ran out of there. I never hung out with those boys before and wouldn't go near them afterwards. One of them lived next door. Our parents knew each other, so he knew I could get him in trouble. They never tried that again with me. I don't know where the teacher was, but I didn't tell on them. These are a lot of sexual situations for a child to be exposed to at such a young age. I think even one is too many, but that was a lot. And I'm telling you this so that maybe your child will be spared these potentially damaging experiences, but just in case, they'll be prepared like me. I knew from the talks with my mom that kids shouldn't behave like that and knew to leave quickly if placed in sexual situations. Obviously, that little girl didn't know that, and those little boys thought that what they were doing was funny or okay. If I had been a naive child, those kids could have corrupted me, but because I was prepared, I was able to protect myself and my own innocence as much as possible. I still didn't understand sex, but I knew that kids shouldn't do those things and that it was bad. So, during my childhood, I was forced to hang out with some bad girls. My mom tried to stop them from being friends with me, but they kept coming around and were really nasty towards her for not letting me play with them. She didn't want them picking on me, so she let me play with them, but warned me about them and not to do what they do. She told me that if they ever tried to get me to do anything bad, to run home or get some adult involved. We hardly ever played far from home, so I could always run home. I grew up in the suburbs, so most of the area was safe for kids. My mom told me to never have anybody over the house when I was there alone.
I was older now, maybe around third or fourth grade. My mom didn't want anyone in our apartment when I was alone, so my friends never really came over. One day, the bad girls pressured me to let them come over. They complained that since I went to their apartment, they should be able to come to mine. I never asked to go to their house because my mom didn't like me going to people's houses. They always had to sweet talk her into it. So they guilt tripped me into letting them come over. I didn't want to and was nervous that my mom would find out. But I gave in to them and let them come over. We did normal things like watch TV and eat. Then, ironically, one of the girls told me to lay down. I did, and then she laid on top of me. I knew this experience too well. I told her that I felt uncomfortable and told her to get off me. They started laughing. They thought it was so funny, and I told them we had to go outside because I didn't want to get in trouble if my mom found out, and that I let them come over. I didn't want to get in trouble if my mom found out that I let them come over. We went outside, and I found some way to get rid of them for the day. It's so strange that I had the same experience years later. It's strange how these girls thought it was funny, but I knew it was wrong. I knew they were trying to corrupt me because I found out later that one of them was sexually abused by her uncle, and they were both having sex in elementary school. The little boys in the closets also knew them, and I think they were having sex with those little boys. One of those little boys was raped by his mom's boyfriend, and the little girl in the closet was also sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend. They were all around the same age. I didn't find any of this out until years later. These were kids that nobody seemed to have protected or talked to about kids not being exposed to sexual situations. That's why they thought it was funny or saw nothing wrong with the things they did. That could have been me. We went to the same schools, so I know they got the same classroom visits about how to deal with sexual abuse. The difference could have been my mom's vigilance and her talking to me about these things being bad for kids. Not to mention going to church and constantly hearing that sex is for marriage or children should be kept innocent. I remember one day asking my uncle to copy Vanilla Ice's album for me that I borrowed from a friend. He heard the song Life is a Fantasy and was upset. He scolded me for listening to that song because kids shouldn't listen to sexually explicit or suggestive songs. He finished copying the album, but told me never to bring anything like that to him again because he won't do it. I think he realized he got his message across because I was so ashamed, so he let me keep the copy but wouldn't do it again. Having a strict family is a pain, but it really helps kids stay out of trouble. Most of these experiences are the ones that kids usually don't tell parents or other family members about. I didn't tell my mom because she was very sensitive to people trying to hurt me and would have flipped. She was already stressed out, so I didn't want to cause her any more stress. So let's talk about family friends again. So during my teen years, the pedophile family friend from before struck again. I guess he figured I was older and I would be more receptive. He was visiting and was drinking beer with my mom. They ran out of beer, so he wanted to get more for my mom before he left. He told me to come along so that he could drop me off and I could bring the beer to her because he had to get home. He had no time to run in and give her the beer. So I had forgotten all about the elementary school incident, and he hadn't tried anything after that, so I wasn't worried. He drove to a secluded place and told me that he wanted me to be his girlfriend and he would give me money every week. Wow. This guy was a piece of you-know-what. He didn't try to touch me, but tried to lure me with his money and position. He was some kind of bigwig and could take care of me and my mom if I would just date him. I got scared that he would rape me, but I kept my cool. I looked around to see if I knew how to get home from where he parked. I figured out how to get home if I needed to jump out the car. I wouldn't look at him, so he pulled out a big wad of cash to show me that he had money.
I looked at the cash and looked away while he kept telling me about how he had money. I think he even asked me how much I wanted him to give me every week so that I could be his girlfriend. He told me not to tell my mom because they were good friends and blah, 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 blah. I was afraid, but I decided to turn things around. I faked interest in the money and he got this psychopathic grin. I asked to see the money again and he showed me. I grabbed a handful of money and he told me to give it back. He became an adult again and he actually tried to scold me. Now he was an adult again, right? He demanded that I give the money back and I said that if he didn't give me more money, I would tell my mom what happened. He was mad and drove to the store. He told me to pay for the beer with the money I took and I said no. I said if he didn't buy it, I would go home with no beer and I would have to tell my mom why. And so he paid for the beer and he drove me home. I harassed him for fun and kept the money. He seemed to be afraid of me after that and never tried anything again. I'm lucky that he didn't rape me, but it was only because he knew my family and was part of a small circle of family friends. He knew that if I had told, he would be ostracized, and my uncle was a big, tough guy. The moral of the story is teach your kids how to protect themselves from sexual abuse at any age. This pedophile wouldn't give up and waited until I was older, but not yet 18. If a kid finds himself in a similar situation that I just described, they shouldn't try to do what I do. Don't. They should try to get out of the situation and to get to safety as soon as possible. He could have really tried to rape me, so the danger was real. I was fortunate to get out of that situation untouched. Don't do what I did. If a relative, family friend, or a parent's mate tries anything with a kid, the kid should tell their parents or some adult who can help them. They shouldn't keep it a secret like I did. My mom was going through so much at the time that I didn't want to add to her problems. If something had happened, I would definitely have told her. But since I was able to protect myself, I kept her out of it. I wouldn't go near that guy anymore or be left alone with him. I never tried to take his money like that again, because it would be unsafe to do so, and he could always turn around and try to make me look like a bad guy. Don't play around with a pedophile. Get away and get to safety. So in the book, Eyes Wide Open, my experience with the psychopath next door says, all this reminded me of some bad girls who bullied me into hanging out with them when I was a kid. My mom let me hang out with them until she heard they were bad news. She refused to let me play with them, so they stood outside my apartment window and said mean things until my mom let me play with them again. This was during elementary school, so it goes to show how bad they were. Normal elementary school kids wouldn't say some of the things they said. I was the nice good girl who was forced to hang out with the bullies so she wouldn't get beat up. Everyone in the neighborhood knew about these girls and knew I was the nice good girl. My family and other adults in the neighborhood looked out for me. They never let this good girl go bad. Everything I did was reported to my family. I couldn't even turn bad if I wanted to, and the bad girls or boys were scolded if they even tried to make me do bad things. I'm so grateful for that because it kept me on the right path. So that's a quote from the book. You may not know if your child feels forced to hang out with the bullies or bad kids to avoid being picked on or beat up. Fortunately, the parent in this book was aware of what was going on, and the decent adults in the neighborhood watched out for the good kids. Many parents don't know that their kids are bullied into befriending bullies and can't look out for them that way. I was forced to hang out with the bad girls, and my mom knew it. She couldn't approach the kids' parents because their mom was messed up in the head, like really bad, and probably would have argued with her. She let me hang out with them to avoid them picking on me, but she constantly told me not to do what they do. Let me know that I could tell her what they did or said, checked on me, checked on what I did while I was out playing with them, told me to come home if they told me to do anything bad or something I didn't want to do. My mom kept me close to home and had other adults look out for me when she couldn't. Luckily, those bad girls moved away a few years later. They really liked hanging out with me and stayed in touch. My mother, my mother's watch, and the other adults looking out for me made an impression on them to the point that they accepted that I was the good girl and they shouldn't involve me in their bad girl behavior. They even protected my good girl status after their failed attempt to corrupt me. My mom saw that and even let me spend the night at their house sometimes. In these current times, a parent shouldn't risk that because things are very different now from when I was a kid. So, again, I'm not sure that the people I talked about were Psychopakids because I didn't know about Psychopakids then. They're being used to illustrate the point of kids corrupting other kids. If they weren't Psychopakids and could have done that much damage, imagine how much damage a psychopath kid could do. The book Eyes Wide Open, My Experience with the Psychopath Next Door writes, surprisingly, these kids won't be obvious bullies. They usually use covert aggression and pretend to be nice kids because they don't want to get in trouble. Their manipulation and deceit are at an adult level, but because they're children, it's hard to detect. Psychopath kids will take advantage of a normal kid's innocence and threaten to hurt the kid if she or he tells. So there are innocent, normal kids carrying around the burden of keeping the psychopath kid's evil deed a secret, even from their parents.
When they were younger, some normal people like to mess with other people. They usually did something like this with a friend, sibling, or parent. They do it by pushing the person's buttons until she or he gets upset. Most people don't take it too far and stop if they see they are really hurting the person or that the person is getting really upset. A PND likes to hurt others. Their behavior may seem similar to a normal person's teasing, but it goes beyond teasing when a PND does it. PNDs are not teasing, they are really trying to do damage. So when you hear a PND say something similar to, I'm going to F with this person, I'm effing with his or her head, or let's go F with him or her, you have a better grasp of what they really mean. It is different from what a normal person would do. They don't know the limits, and if they do, they don't care. They view limits and boundaries as the thresholds they have to reach and cross to get the reaction they want. Psychopath kids spend their childhood practicing how to mess with people. They get really good at it and learn how to avoid getting in trouble for it. The scary truth is that the psychopath kid is not just practicing on adults, she or he is practicing on other kids. The first half of this book is available for free at the link in the description box of this YouTube video. There's also a free workshop on keeping good kids good. The link is in this YouTube's description box also. I think every parent should take this free workshop so that they could protect their kids better. Some of the videos are about how the psychopathic kids killed or sex trafficked their friends. You never know if your kid's friend is a psychopath kid or if they threaten your kid into silence. Watch the free course. It's called the free course, The Dangers Facing Decent Kids playlist. Watching that can help you pick up if something is wrong with your child's friends. You know, sometimes I hear, one of the things that concern me is sometimes I hear parents say that one day their kids are just like normal and fine, and then the next day they're just like shut down and you can't get through them and they just suddenly turn bad. And the parents are like, I don't know what happened to my child. I don't know how to help them. They won't talk to me. They won't tell anything that's happened to me. And I'm thinking, wow. And when I learn about the psychopath, I wonder sometimes, like, well, I wonder if some of these kids, you know, something happened with them and it involved a psychopath kid and they can't tell because the psychopath kid threatened them in some way. And here they are spiraling downward. They don't feel like they could tell their parents about it or anyone else about it. And their whole life gets messed up, you know, and that's one of the main reasons that I wanted to make this video and tell you so much personal information because, you know, some of those kids end up committing suicide. Some of them end up with substance abuse problems. Some of them end up with mental health
problems, and it's so sad that they had to go through their whole life carrying that burden. And if it did involve a psychopath kid, it's hard to tell because psychopath kids are liars. They can lie themselves out of it, and some of them will actually do what they threaten to do to the kid. They would do I don't know, they would mess up the kid's social life at school. It's just like psychopath kids are evil, and some of them will go through with what they threaten the kids with. So one of the things that I was just like, you know what, I'm going to tell people what happened to me if it will help any parent save a child. And if that is why some kids just shut down and go bad some decent kids just shut down and go bad for no reason, if this helps them talk about that or helps their parents get them the help they need, then it was all worth it. So most of the experiences could have been very traumatic for me. However, since I was prepared, I walked away with little scarring. I was able to reflect on these incidents and work through them quite easily because I was prepared as a child to protect and prevent sexual abuse. If schools don't talk about these things anymore, I encourage them to bring it back, especially this day and age where practically anything goes. Pedophilia is wrong. Exposing children to adult situations, especially sexual ones, is wrong. It is important to protect a child's innocence. My mom was able to protect my innocence without leaving me naive. In all those situations, I never really understood sex or the sexual undertones of it all, but I understood that it was bad for kids to have these experiences, and that was enough to help me. The psychopath kid is new to me, so I don't really have any concrete childhood experiences with these types. However, the experiences with the trouble kids I told you about is a good illustration of what the psychopath kid could do to your child. The book Eyes Wide Open, My Experience with the Psychopath Next Door writes, these aren't the innocent and sweet kids raised in a human society. P&D kids are exposed to adult situations and perverse environments at a young age. They grow up thinking this is all normal. A person's first image of a psychopath kid would be an emotionally and psychologically disturbed kid in a special ed class or in an alternative school. However, most psychopath kids are like their parents, and their normal person mask is on tight. You would never guess how bad they really were. Think Catherine from the movie Cruel Intentions. She was a classic example of a wealthy psychopath kid. If you didn't see the movie, Catherine was a popular private school girl with a good reputation, but deep down she was a sadistic little so-and-so. She corrupted a classmate who was entrusted to her care by her parents, and challenged a cave guy to degrade a new student who was a good girl. Some psychopath kids fit the first image, some are like Catherine, and some fall in between. Race, education, and socioeconomic class can't identify psychopath kids. They are a diverse group of people. The main point of writing this chapter is to let normal parents know that psychopath kids exist and their parents think psychopathic traits are an asset. They have no problem letting their child eat your normal child alive and will usually defend or dismiss their kid's maliciousness. Some will play the nice, disappointed parent with the unruly child, but behind the scenes, they have no issues with their child's behavior. They just don't want anyone calling them a bad or negligent parent. This is not pointed at normal parents who really do have kids that are emotionally disturbed or difficult. When encountering a P&D parent, sometimes you get the feeling she or he is duping you when she or he apologizes for his or her child's behavior. Not all psychopath kids will expose your children to adult situations, but they all hurt others for fun. Every parent should be aware of the psychopath kid and their P&D parents. I hope that these personal experiences that I shared will help people heal if they were exposed to similar situations. I also hope it will move more parents to give their children the tools needed to prevent or protect against these type of adult situations. And I really hope that schools will also step in and help kids to deal with these situations, because a lot of these things
happen at school also. It's not just at home, after school, at home at the playground, or during the weekends playing with friends. These things, as you can see, happen in school also. And I think the schools should bring back any education that helps the child deal with these situations if she or he finds themselves exposed to that by another child or by an adult. And with that said, thank you for watching.